Hey guys, Sindan Rider here. This is going to be my chapter review to Nanatsu no Taizai 255, or the 7 Deadly Sins 255, Child of Hope. Now we have got things to discuss, boys and girls. Oh my god. Now this chapter, rarely do you see a chapter in Nanatsu no Taizai that's so divisive, that's been as divisive as this chapter. I mean, if you go to Reddit, it seems like a lot of people were actually okay with the chapter. They really liked it. They really liked the progression that we got in this chapter, which is spoiler alert, Arthur going apeshit. Now a lot of people seem to be fine with it, but I really wasn't. I was like, what the fuck's going on? You know, this is big time. And a lot of people, if you like, a lot of the lesser voted people on Reddit were also quite annoyed by this new turn of events. So let's start off with going through the chapter. So we start with Merlin telling the Sins she wants to go ahead to Camelot by her onesies in order to rescue Arthur. Now I'm fine with this. I'm like, yeah, this is good. Or it's a good, albeit dangerous strategy. Something Escanor does mention. Seeing as the city, seeing as, you know, Merlin going in by her wands, but she is a very skilled magician. So I'm proud. I'm proud. I think she can do that very easily. Especially seeing as how the demons are kind of occupied right now. But if they did go as a unit, as Stigma, to go and rescue Arthur, the city would be incredibly well defended, seeing as they'd be more vigilant upon seeing an army coming on the horizon. You know, so it seems like a good idea at this time. We get Hawk reiterating that Arthur has yet to awaken his magic power, and Escanor showing his disdain for Merlin's plan, a hint of jealousy towards Arthur, you know, all that kind of stuff. But the main point here is that Hawk mentions once more that Arthur has yet to actually awaken his magical abilities. We then have the bulk of the chapter, which has caused such division within the audience. Now, when I read this chapter, I enjoyed it. I was like, yo, this is some major shit. This is pretty cool. But as a fan of the story, and that's why we read these mangas, we read them for the story. Or actually, sorry, that's why I read these mangas. Many of you might read it for the art. Many of you might just read it for whatever reason you may have. I read it for the story. I'm not a big fan of like delving really deep into like character progression. Like, this is why I'm having an issue with My Hero Academia at this moment in time, because they seem to be focusing on some minor character development without story progression, which is something I have a big gripe with. And that's many of you might like that kind of thing, which is fine, but I don't. So yeah, and that's kind of, when I read this chapter, like I said, I enjoyed it, but I'm disappointed in what Nakaba has done to Arthur, and I'll explain why, because I'm such a fan of the story. So let's talk about first the history of Excalibur in Nanatsu no Taizai. Not in general terms, but in Nanatsu no Taizai. So the first owner of Excalibur was called King Kafan, a celebrated master swordsman. Now, if you read the chapter carefully enough, you'll notice that Arthur uses Kafan's techniques to take out both Cusack and Chandler. This king was strong enough to fight against the demon clan, but he eventually died, as humans tend to do, and upon his death he cleansed the blade with his blood and soul, which miraculously made it stronger and sharper. I have no gripes with this, that's fine. The next owner was the Battle King, who was actually feared by the demon clan. Now, I loved how Nakaba has done this. You know, there were humans in the past who the demon clan feared. They would stay away from, you know, steer clear of that guy. He's crazy. We ain't going near the Battle King, you know. So I'm like, yo, this is different to the humans currently. And even 3,000 years ago in the Holy War, the demons weren't afraid of humans, but prior to that, there seemed to be many humans who the demons were like, yo, mind that guy, I don't want to be anywhere near this dude. So the humans were, at some point in time, badass. They were absolutely crazy, and they could take out demons like it was nothing, apparently, especially like this Battle King and this King Kafan, who regularly took on demons by the sounds of things. So the next owner, the Battle King, who was actually feared by the demon clan, awesome. And upon his death, he did the same thing as Kafan. He kind of inherited his will. He cleansed the blade with the blood and with his blood and soul, and this kind of continued over the millennia until the blade possessed countless souls and became the Holy Blade. So all the souls of all its wielders dwell within the blade, and it's become the Holy Blade. Now it's even begun to choose its own owners, or its own wielders, and people who were fit to lead and wield its power were the ones who were chosen. And Arthur is the latest of these kings, or the latest of these people. to have been chosen by the blade, and now he wields the power and he wields the strength and techniques of all his predecessors who are locked within the blade. Now, when you listen to that whole description, there was only one thing, and legit, I thought of this before ever going on Reddit, before going on the manga stream comments. I thought Excalibur is one for all. Excalibur is legit one for all. I read back in those pages and I was like, yeah, the strength, the power, it's an accumulation of power from all its predecessors and techniques. That's where it differs, but an accumulation of strength, one for all. That is one for all. So I was like, so like I said, essentially the blade is one for all, and I enjoyed this concept when reading about Excalibur, but I was seriously underwhelmed because we've unfortunately seen it before. For people who read Boku no Hero Academia or My Hero Academia, this was not a new concept. It would have been a novel idea, but we've seen Deku, and he has his same ability in My Hero Academia. He has the same quirk, only he doesn't inherit the skills of his predecessors, and his is more of an accumulation of strength. So we then see Arthur decapitate Chandler. He cuts off Kusak's arm and slices him in two. He's fighting Zeldris and Meliodas at the same time, and he smashes the both of them. And this is where things get controversial. Majorly controversial. Now, I'm a big fan of Arthur. Like, a lot of you guys feel that anybody who had any disdain or any issue with this chapter, that you guys suck off the demons, you love Meliodas and all that, Eskimo fans. And I'm just like, bruh, calm down. We're just fans of the story, alright? People will differ in opinions. That's just the nature of this kind of thing. Now, I'm a big fan of Arthur. I've liked Arthur since we first saw him, because the guy rolled up in golden armor with a golden sword. I was like, how can you not like this guy? I'm a Saints fan. This guy looks pimp as hell. I was like, yo, this guy looks sick. And I've always been a huge advocate of him receiving a buff, and we knew he was going to get a buff because of Merlin saying, his magical abilities are not yet been unlocked. He has huge potential, always huge potential with Arthur, and this is based off of Arthurian legend. So Arthur is going to be a badass eventually. So let's go through the good points first on why him receiving this buff was good, and it was awesome. So the humans. The point number one is the humans now have someone who is a powerhouse. Apart from Escanor and apart from the goddess, the archangels, the humans, because the archangels have their own thing in mind. We know they're a bit dodgy, and we know that they're not going to stick to the whole thing of stigma. We know that if it came down to it, they would like put all the humans on a plate and deliver them to the demons, and then they'd do one if they had to do it. So point number one is, the humans now have a powerhouse other than Escanor and other than Ban, really, because Merlin may not be human. And it's someone capable of fighting against someone of Meliodas' level. They didn't really have that apart from Escanor, and that was like 1 minute of the day. So, and like I mentioned before, I really, really loved the history of humans we got, seeing that there were some humans in the past, many humans in the past, if we've read it properly, who were feared by the demons. That's an astounding concept. I was like, yo, we've not seen a demon really fear any human at this point in time apart from Escanor, and that's a cool thing to see. Point number two, Arthur has been hyped since the first time we saw him, and this lived up to the hype. He's been a character who's been hyped and hyped and hyped, and this lived up seriously to the hype. So I was like, yo, that's point number two for why this was a good thing. And the third thing is, this adds a new dimension to the story, especially if Arthur refuses to join Stigma. Then we have this huge like three-way war kind of thing. We have the demons, we have Stigma and the goddesses and the humans, and then we'll have the humans who decide to side with Arthur. And that would be a really, really awesome dimension to the story, and it'd be cool to see where that went. However, there are quite a few bad points to this as well, and I'll get into it. So first, as I think the first point is where many people will be, this is what divides the people. You'll either enjoy this or you'll not enjoy this. And I didn't enjoy this. So the first point is that the power jump was insanely huge. It was massive. Arthur has been hyped since day one. I get that. But this is a disgusting, absolutely disgusting power jump. He has just taken out the 4 strongest demons in existence outside of the Demon King. So far as we know, we've yet to be introduced to the 6 Dark Knights or the 6 Black Knights, I think it was. But the out of the demons we know, these are the 4 strongest in existence, and Arthur dismantles these mans. He absolutely destroys them. And if this continues next chapter and he dominates them as he has been, I don't see why he shouldn't just kill them. If he continues to dominate them at such an extent, to such an extent, he should legit just kill them. Otherwise, there will be no explanation for why he didn't just murder their asses. He should straight up kill them if he has the opportunity. That would be more realistic, but still a bad power buff in my opinion, because it was way too drastic. You can't jump in terms of, you can't power up someone in a story, especially when there's these tensions and this balance between different forces. You can't have someone's power level jump at such an astounding level, because it ruins the balance, and that's what it's done. I understand very well, by the way, that this is Arthur, and that is Excalibur, and this is an Arthurian based manga, based off the Arthurian legend. But this has ruined the delicate power balance between Stigma and the demons, and really I don't know where this is going to go from here on out. Second, second, the balance of power between Stigma and the demons has been ruined. I know I kind of mentioned that already, but I'll talk a little bit more about it. So I mentioned earlier that Arthur adds a new dimension, especially if he doesn't join Stigma. However, he will join Stigma. He is going to join Stigma, and the reason for this is because that's where Merlin is. Merlin has allied herself with the Archangels. The Sins are part of Stigma. They are an allied force. They are an allied nation at this point in time, and that's where the king of the human race, who that's what he's set up to be, that's where he's going to go. Arthur's going to go to Stigma, and that's going to ruin the whole thing, because it's not going to be the demons versus Stigma versus Arthur and his crew. It's going to be the demons versus all of these guys. So I'm like, I have no love for the demons. I think they're cool. I think the Archangels I think they're the ones which a lot of people hate, but this is war, and there's going to be good people and bad people on both sides. We have just yet to see the good people out of the goddesses, apart from Elizabeth. But yeah, even the Archangels, like we don't, generally the Archangels are a bit dodgy because of their scheming nature, and the demons, however, they have done some malicious things. They have done a lot of malicious things in terms of murdering humans. But if Arthur were to go to Stigma, which is what he will seemingly do, it's gonna be a huge disruption, like I said, in the balance of power between the two sides, and that's what's making me so angry about this. I'm just like, come on, man, like it's just a really, really balance destroying thing. So third, now this is a major point for me. This has fodderized every other character literally below Zeldris and Meliodas' level, which is every other character in the manga. Cusack and Chandler, okay, maybe they're fine, but this is exactly why you cannot have a power jump of this level. You cannot get someone who was strong anyway. I mean, like, you have to understand that Arthur has been trained by Nanashi. He's been brought up by Merlin, who's been someone who's been kind of seeing his growth and pushing him to go to places where he hasn't been before in terms of his magical ability, because that's his highest rated stat, by the way, is his magical ability. And it's not just a coincidence that his magical ability is the best and he was trained by Merlin, one-on-one. But he's also been trained physically by Nanashi. He's been trained to be fast by Nanashi. We've seen him dismantle like a whole bunch of lower level demons. But the Sins, who the story is named after, have now become useless once again. Now, in regards to their power level, I mean, we just got a buff for King and Diane, and now Arthur's like crazy powerful. And I'm just like, Arthur is more powerful than King, I would say, at this moment in time. I think he could dismantle Arthur. If he's wrecking 4 of the most elite demons at this moment in time, at the same time, he would dismantle King. He could take out Diane, because Diane's kind of Diane's kind of my least favorite Sin. He could probably take out Merlin, but Merlin would be a bit tricky because she's a magician. Galtha he would dismantle, seemingly Meliodas at this point in time, and maybe even Escanor until the one appeared, and then there'd be something to see. And the one is most likely the pinnacle at this moment in time, apart from the Demon King and Supreme Deity. Ban is still set to get a huge power up, so we can't really say anything about his comparison with Arthur, especially with his ability Snatch. And then when you factor in all the abilities of the Sins, maybe there'd be some leeway into whether they'd be able to defeat Arthur or not. But the fact remains that Arthur would be able to take out probably 5-6 of the Sins if he was pushed to do it. Even more so, humans, which were meant to be exceptional, like Gilthunder, Dreyfus and the rest of them, they're all just ants now. They're not even worth talking about at this moment in time. This is a waste. This is a waste, in my opinion, of characters, because they're a waste of characters in the sense that they are now so far off the radar in terms of their power level that they're not even worth our time. What's the point in focusing off Gilthunder, who was the main antagonist for the first arc? You know, we saw him and we were like, yo, this guy's crazy. You know, and Meliodas was struggling against him supposedly, and then we found out they were friends and all shit like that. But Gilthunder was supposed to have a good character progression, you know, become stronger, become someone who stays in the story and factors in to main storylines and main plot lines and things like that. But he's not worth our time anymore. Neither is Hendrickson, neither is Dreyfus. Dreyfus is the only one who seems to know that shit's going down. But this is a waste of characters, in my opinion. They've been developed. We've seen them all the way through this manga, and they're just wastemans now because Arthur is just crazy strong. I mean, they were already wastes because of how strong Meliodas and the rest of them were. But now with Arthur toying with the foremost elite demons we know, they're not even worth considering. They don't need to be in the manga. They don't add anything to the manga. Fourth, Arthur has still, this is a major point, Arthur has still not unlocked his magical potential. That's not what Excalibur did. His power-up was simply a result of wielding Excalibur. He unsheathed it. Oh yeah, okay. Well, actually, he pulled it out of the rock, and he was like, okay, this is me now. You're dead. Now he is broken as hell right now. If he unlocks his magical ability too, it's game over. Who's going to stand up against him if he's like magically exceptional compared to even the demons and the archangels and the goddesses and things like that? And then he also has the physical ability of like millions of humans who were exceptionally powerful. So then it's just like, you can't stand against him. And people are actually talking about the fact that maybe the human king, i.e. Arthur, should be as strong as the demon king and the supreme deity. I'm not sure how many people have said that, but people have said that. And I'm just like, but the supreme deity and the demon king cannot exist in the same plane, supposedly, as where everyone else is at this moment. They cannot exist in Britannia, hence why one's in purgatory and one's somewhere we don't even know. They have nothing to do with being on the same plane at this moment in time. And if Arthur gets as strong as they are, toying with Meliodas and things like that, then surely he should not be able to physically exist. I don't know how it works, but his power level is too far for him to be allowed to be on the same plane as these guys and still be, you know, just chilling. I mean, like, the fact that may be that he's actually human, so he can stay on Earth, but I don't know. He's just too broken at this moment in time, and he's really fodderized and everything up, and he's still not unlocked his magical ability. And fifth, I think, is my final point. He's not even serious. This was the annoying thing. He's not even serious when taking out all of these elite demons. Now, some of you may have thought, oh, that's really cool. And it was cool upon first reading, but when you think about it, Arthur's talking to Kath whilst deflecting Zeldris' sword, and he's not even looking at him. I'm aware that this is one of the previous wielders' abilities, you know, but the fact that he's doing this with ease rubs me the wrong way. How are we supposed to have any fear of the demons or of the archangels or of anyone if they can get trampled so easily by our king, the king of humans, Arthur? If they get trampled like that, there's nothing for us to fear. You know, Arthur will just go and save the day. That's why you cannot have a power jump like this. People will say that the demons don't look to be fighting very seriously either, which is a good point, to be fair. It brings up the theory of maybe, I was just thinking about this while I was reading the chapter, I was like, they don't look to be too serious. Maybe Meliodas wanted Arthur to gain Excalibur, and that he wants to see what Arthur will do with Excalibur. Maybe he has a plan, knowing Arthur's nature, of what he'll do and how it may factor into helping him in the long run. However, if he hadn't wanted Arthur to gain Excalibur, then it's even more bullshit that Arthur did, because Meliodas would have been the only one out of the demons to know about Excalibur and its importance, because the other demons had been sealed and they wouldn't have been around for the 3 millennia that Excalibur was gaining power, and it possibly only became the Holy Blade within that time frame. So Meliodas would have been the only one free whilst Excalibur was gaining and stacking those souls and stacking those abilities and strength. So he would have heard of Excalibur. Maybe Merlin would have mentioned it to him at some point. He would have heard about Excalibur. There's no reason for why Meliodas would have been unaware of Excalibur. So those are all the bad points I could think of for now. But chances are there is more wrong with this buff for Arthur. I mean, you guys tell me, comment down below if you liked it or whether you didn't like it. Tell me why you liked it. I mean, like, I'm fine to debate this with you. It's not going to be an argument. Just debate it with me, and I'm cool with that. That's all good. However, we have to remember that this was only the first chapter to show Arthur wielding Excalibur, and not and next chapter, sorry, could be very different. And maybe the demons turn the tide around, or however. When we think about it, the chapter is called The Piercing Holy Sword, so it sounds like maybe Arthur may still be on his ass-kicking spree. What I'm thinking, though, is we may find a downside to Arthur using Excalibur. Maybe, I mean, he hasn't been allowed to use it. He said something about Merlin saying that he couldn't just use Excalibur willy-nilly. He had to use it when in the most dire situations, and when there was a person to use it against, someone, basically the main antagonist for him. And he can't simply be this OP, this broken at all times without a downside. There has to be some downside, like Escanor only using his one form for 1 minute of the day, and it juiced out all the stored energy he had, all the potential energy he had within him. It juiced all that out. So his one form now probably won't be as strong as it was against Meliodas when we saw it. We'll see how it goes. But this chapter was a big game changer for me, and not in a good way. And I'm hoping somehow this Nakaba fixes it up a bit, because I don't know what to think of it now, with Arthur going this apeshit and with what we've seen this chapter. So let me know what you guys thought of the chapter. I really want to know, because this was a divisive chapter. It was a polarizing chapter. So let me know what you guys thought. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. If you had anything you wanted to agree with me about, let me know. Disagree with me about, let me know. It's all good. And I'll see you guys whenever the next chapter comes out. So I'll see you guys then.